The phone said it was 555 when I picked up the phone after coming in from being outside and doing some breath work with the good old Saul, Sphere of Light. This was something that came to me earlier today, and it reminded me of my childhood. And I saw a video this morning about what was it called? Oh, it was talking about the years 1 through 7. I know that Max Spears, who was a super soldier, covered that about his own childhood, about compartmentalizing information, about how to fracture altars, making altars, many altars actually, and how they develop assassins. Right? Hey, all you got to do is traumatize them, create an amnesic barrier. Now they don't remember who they are because they don't have a connection to what they once were. That's parallel. That's a shadow body self. Okay. It doesn't remember what it once was, right? So you know that unit is in fear of experiencing what love is because it doesn't have the ability to experience the vibe. It's not whole. It's not experiencing being whole, the whole pie, right? The entire sphere, the first sphere, right? Sphere of light, right? The light spirit body. So now you go into a dark spirit body, a shadow body. You've seen shadow bodies come in and out of hijacked vehicles, right? I figure most of you have seen that. But what happened today is when I saw that about programming, in other words, it's all unconscious memory programming, right? Now, you can get into the programming of what's held in planetary cellular memory banks and the memory banks of a galaxy and the memory banks of a universe and Cosmina records, permanent records of access to information is represented by what? Experiences. That's how we learn, through experience, right? The teacher, the informer, the information, the data, experiencing the data. What is the data informing us of? The frequency and the vibration, the frequency modulation of our radio antenna, a cell antenna, right? What we're writing by what we're experiencing that's being recorded. And so when I was a child growing up, and I picked my parents, and so my dad was, as I mentioned before, the most trustworthy, the most honorable man I have ever known face to face in this life book, meaning since I came into my mother's biological womb, into the womb of a goddess. Right? And I've talked about real gods and real goddesses, and when you're in lower creation, particularly in 3D on the XYZ axis, if you're wanting to go way up, right, then you know that if you're a male, you're not going to get there without going through the womb of a goddess. It just will not happen. Sorry. Which means if you don't have the capacity, which is a capacitor, to experience the higher octave of a girl, right, a birth giver of creation, right, the womb, right, what comes out of the womb of a girl, remember, the plug and socket needs a grower, right? That's why it's so painful when I think of Aaron. He's not ever. I mean, pure basic logic would tell you if you wanted to generate another computer that's like the one that you're running, then it might behoove you to find a female that you can find a spiritual match with, right, in soul spiritual development, right, that represents another supercomputer that you might want to mate with. Now you're into mated chips, being a monad. Now you're the high-speed processor, right, vortex, spinning data, right, spinning a planet chip. And so when I was a child growing up, my mother, as I've mentioned before, went to what's called finishing school to learn how to be a hostess, not a ding-dong. My mother was a human angelic, okay? My mother was one of the kindest, most generous, loving, generous, shared everything, right? And was a sweet woman and harmless, okay? Her energy was not intended to harm anybody, okay? My mother was harmless, okay? And so, but that doesn't mean that my mother didn't experience anger and didn't experience lower frequency emotions. I've experienced my mother when she's been drunk and she was upset. Okay, and you realize why that is, where anger comes from. I call it an idiot light. Something is definitely wrong. Something's not right here. Right? And you can sort of plug that into the equation with the socket, right? And the plug. When the plug and the socket become one, which means now you are the entire electromagnetic energy waveform spectrum, right? Full elemental command, right? To generate eternal creation, angelic realities. What it's like to experience being one. And so when I was a child growing up, my mother had expectations on her children. And so I was the firstborn male for my mother. So you know what table manners are. Now we're back on the water tables. Water table distribution columns or water table displacement. You know, you throw a big-ass 10-pound ice cube into your bathtub, right? Watch what happens. Or get yourself some dry ice. See how long that lasts. And what happens? It doesn't melt, does it? And so my mother had what would be euphemistically or metaphorically called polished manners, like a polished crystal. Okay, I'll give you an example. When I sat at the dinner table, both hands had to be under the table. Okay, you don't reach across the table. If you want something, like the salt over there, you ask, may I please have the salt? Okay. I was taught that when you're walking up to a door and there's a female that is near you, you open the door for her. Okay. When I was walking down an aisle, for example, and you realize you're in your way, excuse me. Or if you need to get through, excuse me. Right? If you needed to reach something, like in an aisle in a store, I would either wait till they're done. Patience. I can wait. I'm not in a hurry. I got all the time in the world. I'll wait till you're done. Why? So they don't feel any anxiety or rust. So the more calm that they are to do what it is they're intending on doing without being intruded upon, which means my plasma wave is not going to disturb them, to disturb their peace, then that means that the same state of their consciousness was in and what they intended to do is not going to be interfered with. Okay? So what that means, you're recording these manners that I learned in my childhood through my mother. Okay? Of how to treat others. How to be courteous, kind, respectful, and honorable. And my father was living in the truth, being what love is. Not being afraid to freely express yourself and pick your battles and make sure you got the high ground, which is the high frequency behind you, to use your heart, properly granted to mama's battery, pulling bar voltage, bang out your antenna. Start doing some work. Scalar consciousness plasma waves, banging out love, banging out pink diamonds. So what I noticed over time was I was not unlike a lot of other folks when I would go in the store when I was a little kid. Meaning that there were other adults and even young adults who would say, excuse me, I'm sorry, can I get through here? Right? Which means they addressed you out of honor and respect for who you are. Right? And that was common in some of the places that I grew up with in America. Okay? So what I began to notice over time-space vectors, as there was an acceleration of hungry ghosts, right? And now you get into fetus abuse, child abuse, self-abuse as teenagers. Here come all the drugs. Remember, they get us on the front end, then they get us on the back end. And you want to know what that's called? That's called burning a candle at both ends. So it becomes cold. Cold as ice. That's counter space. That's your AI. That's their beast system. That's their phantom daisy of death, otherwise known as a death spiral. Which means they could care less. Everything's mine. I'll take it. bang on your door. Hey, I'm coming in here to raid you, rape your women, kill your children. I'll even do it right in front of your face to show you how much I don't care about you, how much I hate you. I'm here to kill all of you, right? You want to know who was doing that in World War II? Einsatzgruppen. Same folks. I know. So you see where we're at. So one of the things that I noticed over time was those kinds of manners that I was experiencing by a greater number of people over time-space vectors began to disappear and disappear and disappear, which means I'm not experiencing through others what it is that I'm still doing. Wow. You see how that's measured on the planetary consciousness train? Loss and gain. So today that sort of happened because I realized that, well, I'll just show you what happened. I gave people, you know, what it means to hold space. In other words, hey, you want to run your spaceship through here because you want to go faster than me? Go right ahead. I'll get out of your way, right? Now, in the past, when I was growing up, somebody would say, thank you for letting me go. Even on the highway, for example, with truckers, right? And whenever I'd see trucks, because I realized these guys are on the job, they're getting paid by the mile to get that product to the market so it can be sold, so the electron transaction can take place, right? So a lot of times what I do, we have signals. I know the trucker signals. Besides the fact I used to have a CB and be on channel 19. But they have certain light signatures of what they do. So whenever I see them coming up behind me, I get out of the way so that they don't have to do what? Break any circuits. Which means maintain their flow. Maintain the flow rate. Because remember, they're on a log scale table according to a clock with the circadian rhythm held in their head. They know in their head, which are their atomic cycles, which means they're running their processor, which is their cell membrane. Okay? They're on a clock. Tick-tock, 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 in a particular density wave. Right? And how those density waves work with what? Loss and gain of electrons. And so, in realizing that, right? Hey, I always waved to him like this in the back of my window. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Sure. Let's let him know. Go right ahead. I love you too. I care about where you're going. That's an acknowledgement of honor and respect for others. Take the free lane. That lane is yours. You can have it all you want. And you see how that works with giving away electrons, right? No leashes and collars. I'm not trying to hold you up, buddy. You just keep right on going. That's called the green flag. The green flag at the speedway. Go, go, go. Now, don't want to hold your energy captive to what it is that I'm doing. I don't want to slow you down. You need space to go through. Go right ahead, right? And then you run into people. I'm not going to give you that space. No. I'm going to fuck with you. Just to jack up your anxiety and your emotional level, right? Because I'm a hungry ghost. Misery loves company. And by the way, that doesn't even include the joining acids that do that on purpose through the AI. There might be some cyborg terminator in that unit that's gotten a signal. Hey, that guy in that vehicle behind you is coming up there. That's a soul in that vehicle there. He's got a destination. Fuck with his head, right? As a matter of fact, you might even want to bang into him, right? You might even want to use your equipment to disable his vehicle. Hit him with a directed energy weapon. That's why when I was a little kid, you're scanning all the booby traps, which are soul traps, which are consciousness traps, so they can use your soul energy to run their programs. Because you're simply not aware. And that's what it means to have a higher state of awareness, right? You're very aware. of the energy environment that you're operating in, which is an AI battlefield, which is a binary wargamer, which is polarized consciousness, which is bipolar, which is known as a bipolar disorder, because they're not experiencing three. And what? In perfect rhythm. With Mama's three spheres logo. To be in peace with Mama. Tuning right in, dial that tone, dial that frequency modulation right into Mama. Now you're in tune with her music. Now we're all rising with her, ascending with her. And she rises, we're rising. We're cleaning it all up. We're cleaning the mess up. Everyone's healing, right? Everyone is honoring their contracts. Salvage mission contracts, redemption contracts. We're all with Mama. This is a noble planet. This is a healing planet. That's why we're here. This planet's got a fail-safe NAMI code. That's where we're at. So today when I was going through, what was it, Safeway, and you're aware of this, right? It's just like there wasn't one individual that ever, like they used to do when I was a kid growing up, if you did that, they said, thank you very much that you did that, which means they honored you by honoring them. I acknowledge who you are because you acknowledge your respect for me. I honor and respect you back. That's called co-creation, co-evolution of living in peace, living in harmony, and living in rhythm. Because the waves are not distorted. That means our consciousness, our plasma waves, are connecting with each other. And we're in tune with each other. So that neither one of us are experiencing any distortions in our waves. That means that our neurons, at the speed at which they are firing, we are not experiencing any anxiety, any stress. We're in